Guys, welcome back to the Heavenly Bread podcast. We're very happy that you're listening today.
So happy.
Actually, we have a brand new person on the show. Usually, it's just your favorite co-host. Okay, usually it's Charissa and I, and you know, we're great and all. But
fantastic.
We've actually added somebody to the Heavenly Bread team in the last few weeks. And I don't know, we thought maybe she'd make her first appearance on the show itself. So
why not?
Who do we got?
Abby Pullicin.
Hey!
That's me.
Abby, we're so happy that you're with us. So Abby just recently joined Heavenly Bread staff as, well, tell the people what your role is on the team.
Wow. Lots of things. I do social media content. So getting just like videos, photos, all of that kind of stuff. So whether that's in the prayer room, during the podcast, traveling, whatever that looks like, I'm just kind of getting that content.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of do some behind the scenes stuff, behind the camera, and some editing stuff on the social media side. But also we're going to start seeing you more in front of the camera. Obviously you're here on the show in front of the camera now.
Yes.
And guys, we're so excited that Abby's on the team. I feel like, we were just joking earlier, I feel like she kind of keeps this team a little bit younger, right?
So dramatic. It's like we're 86.
We're just like old Papa Bears over here. No, but honestly, so Abby, you're 22. Give us like a couple of minutes, just a little short, like, I don't know, a little bio for the people, just so they know who's Abby, where is she from, what's she about, a little bit of your background.
Yes, I'm from Asheville, North Carolina, but spent the last year and a half in Dallas working for a ministry called Africa Freedom Mission. Shout out to them. If you want to go to Africa, go with them.
Ooh.
So spent actually a lot of my time the last 3 years in Africa, which was amazing. That's really my heart. I burn for missions. To see people radically saved and delivered, just to know the name of Jesus. So that's what I burn for. I love media, love photography. That's something I've done on the side since I was 17. So that's super fun. And now I'm here just learning to intercede with the Nashrites and getting to join in with you guys, which is so fun. But yeah, it's a little bit about me. You can check out my Instagram if you want to stalk me. But all the Gen Zers, I know you do it. But yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yeah. And so now Abby has joined us in the last few months out here in Colorado, here in Denver. So Charissa and I came with the first wave, if you will, in August. And then there was a few more that joined us closer to Christmas time. And so Abby was a part of that. And so just been here for 2 or 3 months, right?
Yeah, very fresh.
And so, but when she got out here, I knew she had some background in missions. I knew she had some background in media and stuff. And I just started having some conversations with her. And one thing led to the next. Now she's joined Heavenly Bread's team.
Here we are.
And I love it. And so, anyways, anything you want to say, Charissa, about Abby?
Oh, wow.
On the spot.
No, I mean, just super excited to have you as part of the team. I think that you bring like a fresh perspective, just even from being like in the missions field in a way that we haven't.
Absolutely.
That I think is going to be really beautiful just to have like a more holistic conversation.
Yeah.
And just different perspectives on the things of God. Yeah, I'm excited just to even see you speak more and hear your heart more. I think that people will glean a lot from hearing what you have to share. So glad you're here.
Yeah.
Stoked.
And so guys, you're going to see Abby, like we said, mostly on social media. She'll jump in from time to time here on the podcast, but we're happy you're here today.
Stoked. Let's go.
The reason I wanted to have Abby on was first to introduce her, obviously, to everybody who listens, but also we kind of wanted to have a conversation related to a pretty big weekend that we had. We kind of just all got back to, we're filming this on a Tuesday, so we're a couple days after a weekend where a lot of our crew here in Denver, we all actually hopped on a couple of planes. Well, some people drove. We didn't. We flew.
Praise.
We flew to Asbury Theological Seminary out in Wilmore, Kentucky, to go and see what was happening there. I'm sure if you're listening, maybe you've heard of the move of God that's been happening there. And people are actually coming from all over the country to try and be a part of the meetings happening there. It's been really crazy to see. It's been on the news and just in the last couple of weeks. It's only been going, I think, for like 2.5 weeks or something. But one of our friends, a part of our crew, his family lives close to there and kind of was like, hey, we should go check it out. We'd have a place to stay. And so we did. We jumped on. And so we kind of want to just take this episode, sort of debrief the weekend, share with you guys some of our experience. Maybe some of you have been seeing things on social media or on the news and you have questions about what's going on. Well, I don't know if we'll answer all those questions that you have in your heart or anything, but we want to just share our experience. And I think we have lots of different thoughts related to the weekend. And so anyways, why don't one of you jump in and just share okay, what was we get there, we initially show up, talk about what we just saw as we're driving up, into town. It's a pretty small town. All of a sudden we're driving up to it and we're in the vicinity. What do we start seeing?
Yeah.
Carissa, why don't you take it from here?
I'll start us off, get the ball rolling.
Come on.
No, I mean, I think driving up into the area where the school is, seeing lines of people, I mean, at very different days, but I know there was a report that there was a 3.5 mile long line. And so that's what we're pulling up and seeing. And I think my first initial thought was, it's this campus that's in the middle of a neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so I'm literally
Literally.
oh my gosh, this has the ability to impact and shift an entire neighborhood.
Wow.
Because it's a spectacle. This neighborhood's usually probably fairly empty.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden people from all of these different states are coming. And so
Yes.
people are in their homes what is happening? What is this?
Wow.
And I think I just began to feel even the weight of, before we even define what it is that's happening, what that practically looks like. We know the Lord is moving here and that people are coming hungry. And this is such an opportunity for people to meet the Lord.
Wow.
But even the beginning of conversations, to invite an entire town to come and meet the Lord.
Wow.
And so I was just overcome with that initially. Just, oh my gosh, the beauty of, we're making a spectacle of the Lord.
Wow.
We're there's an atmosphere happening, and if someone asks about it, it's not that there's someone in town. It's not that there's an event.
That's right.
It's literally the Lord started moving, and so people came. And so I thought
Man, that's so
that
good.
in itself was just whoa, this is the kind of witness and conversation that can happen when God manifests himself to us, and when there's a people who are hungry and responsive. Because I think it started with, from what I've heard, just a group of students stayed behind after chapel.
Right.
And then the Lord started moving, and they texted their friends and they're get back here. And so it's this there was a small group that decided to linger and wait on the Lord. And now there's this whole conversation hitting.
And now it's
the nation.
taking over the whole town.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you pointed that out, because for anyone who's never been there to where Asbury Seminary is, it's in a small town in Kentucky called Wilmore, Kentucky. And I think it only has a Subway is the only fast food
Literally.
Yeah.
restaurant that's there. And I was with I was with a friend of mine who goes there, and I was asking him about that. I was like, don't you guys only have a Subway? And he was like, well, we have a Chinese restaurant too.
He's like, got a lot of stuff going on. All right, buddy.
Yeah. And it's like, whoa. I mean, that is really interesting because like when we pulled up, we parked in a neighborhood, like you said, and there's cars just like parked wherever they can in town.
And like people looking out their windows, like what's
going on?
Yeah.
That I didn't really think about that a ton, but I'm like, that probably was how things were whenever Jesus would go to like these small towns and stuff would start breaking out.
Yeah.
And
There's all
like,
of a sudden a crowd. And people
all of a sudden it's like, wait, what's going on? Why are people gathering? And the curiosity that kind of like spreads throughout the town.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
so good.
It was like the town was small enough too to where it happened really quickly. But yeah, like you said, we show up and there's thousands of people in line. And so some people, you know, the line is all headed toward like into the campus, and then people are essentially trying to get into like the main building where they're actually having the meeting. And so some people, I mean, how long do you think some people would stay there, Abby, like in the line?
Yeah, hours. I mean, it was basically wrapping around the whole campus.
Yeah.
I met people that were in line for like 2-3 hours that were like not even halfway
Oh yeah.
to the building. So
Right.
long time, all day.
Yeah. And so even like when we showed up, we were in line for, I think, probably a couple of hours before we found out there was like another line that was for
Like
just
young adults.
Yeah, for just young adults, because they were trying to get young adults in there. And so we like cut probably we were like ushered by a friend of ours, ushered past I don't know, maybe 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Up closer to the front of the line. Charissa and I actually, and another friend of ours, we had to go back earlier. And so we just had a shorter amount of time.
Yeah, we were literally in there for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, Charissa and I got in the room for, I've been telling people 11 minutes tops.
Yeah, I think maybe not even that.
So, and then Abby, you were able to stay there.
Yes.
I guess get into the building and spend some hours there. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah. It was awesome.
Talk to us just a little bit, Abby, about your experience throughout that whole day, whether in line or once you got in, and some of your just experience and observations. Just give us the whole thing.
Yeah. I think I went really full of expectation. So I was just really anticipating like getting in there. Obviously, it's not about the building. But I think there's just something in my heart of like, I want to see like what's sparking all of this.
Right.
It was really cool though. Got to talk to a lot of people in line and just hear like where they were from, literally people from out of the country that came here just to witness this.
You said out of the country?
Yes.
Wow.
Crazy.
So it's hitting the nations.
Yes. I mean, if you think about it, people have been praying for this for years. A lot of people in our generation have never even seen a move of God like this. And so for it to be hitting is like, I don't know, it's like almost something like waking up in our spirit of like, this is something that we've been interceding for. So it was just really cool, honestly, to talk with thousands, or I didn't talk with thousands, but to talk with some of the thousands that were in line, just waiting to get in. I actually was at Asbury University on Circuit Rider Tour 4 years ago, almost exactly 4 years ago.
Wow.
And so to be there 4 years later, seeing like what we were like waging and like worship and prayer for was just like, that was kind of like a whole experience. Ran into one of my friends I was on tour with there.
No way.
So yeah, that was wild. But getting into the building, I think I just kind of got in and was just taking it all in and seeing the hunger that people had, the hunger and purity of worship that was going on. Like everybody's saying, like it wasn't anything crazy. It was simple. People on a guitar, cajon, a few singers, maybe the piano.
Right.
Just singing worship songs, whether that was a hymn or a song that came out like last month, like it didn't really matter. So that was beautiful to witness the beauty of what was happening in the room. I think something that really struck me as we were in there longer, though, is just kind of discerning. There wasn't a ton of like freedom in the room.
Sure.
So just seeing like, okay, this is definitely a move of God and people are desperate for him. They are hungry after him. And then, but just seeing there wasn't a huge backing of like the Lord's power when it comes to like people's encounter with the Lord. And so honestly, that just moved me into intercession. And I think even for the last like 3-4 days or however long it's been since then, I've just been gripped with this burden from the Lord of him saying like, this is definitely beautiful and it's a precursor for what's happening.
Right.
But don't think that this is the most that I have for this generation. Don't think that this is the most of what is to come. And so just really allowing that to even purify my heart and making sure that I'm not stepping into a place of judgment against it and letting it push me into intercession of like, God, what are you wanting to do in fullness? So that's a little bit of kind of my thoughts and experience behind it. But
No, I think that's so good. I mean, I wasn't in the room like as long as you were. There was a section where we were outside of it that you could kind of hear some of it from the screen. But I had the sense that this is a beginning.
Yes.
And I think that in a sense it's nice that it's not everything at once.
Yeah.
Which I'm the most like, I want everything. I want all the crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But like I think there was a beauty in the simplicity of people coming and repenting and turning towards the Lord.
Yes.
And but I did feel that too. Like I'm excited to see what this leads to, like discipleship that takes place after, just depth in the spirit. Because I know like for me, the shift, like I was walking with the Lord for many years, but there began to be this discontentment with, I'm not seeing what I'm reading in the Bible. Like I'm not seeing the power. And it just began this hunger for the leadership of the Spirit. And like, just to see more of the Lord. And so that's what I was sensing. I was like, this is a beautiful beginning. And like just praying that the Lord draws them into the more, and that there would be responsiveness for the more, and that people wouldn't just, I guess, be satisfied with the measure that the Lord has given, but be thankful for what's been given and then reach for the more and see the more.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I really appreciate that perspective that you guys are kind of articulating, because I'm getting questions. People know that I went and, just because of different posts on social media or whatever. And so people are texting me and they're like, tell me about the experience. And like, they want to know. And well, first of all, I keep telling them we're going to do a podcast about it to kind of avoid a little bit of having 100 conversations. But I'm like, guys, I feel like I'm with you guys where I'm seeing, I think a lot of it is really beautiful, but I feel like it's very elementary. I feel like it's this is really basic stuff, guys.
Yes.
And I think just while we're having this conversation, just to clarify, like our perspective, we're not at all looking down on what's happening. We're not judging it. We're not like it should have been more. That's not at all the perspective. Like it's a beautiful move of God that we're grateful for.
Definitely.
But these are just some other things that are stirring in us. Just to put that so it's not misinterpreted.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't want us to look down upon it or be cynical about it. But I think that I'm just looking at it, I'm thinking, gosh, I have been in way more powerful services or conferences, or I've had way more, more powerful corporate experiences even. I was kind of thought to myself, this is very simple, it's very good, but I mean, I could get, if I just am going after like an amazing encounter with the Lord, a corporate encounter, I could go to any given Sunday at Jesus Image or any given Sunday at Upper Room Dallas or wherever, and I would probably walk away more with a more profound experience personally. And so one of the things that I was kind of, but you can't at the same time, you can't look at what's happening and say that the Lord's not moving.
Right.
And so it's like, so I just begin to look at it and be like, Lord, this is so interesting. And I feel like what I'm seeing is, you guys kind of alluded to it, but there's a desperation and a starvation amongst the people of God, to where even the smallest move of the Lord, people are flocking by the thousands from all over this country and even the nations of the earth. And I feel like I was getting I've been using the analogy, I feel like people are just coming to grab a hold of the hem of his garment, thinking perhaps the Lord would touch me and my family. And so to me, it's highlighting the drought that we've been in as the body of Christ. I mean, I just re-listened to Corey's message that he gave a couple days ago. At our church, Corey Russell gave a message all about revival. And I think he was calculated. I think he was he's trying to put language to some of the stuff we're seeing. And let's talk revival. But one of the things that he talked about is like, listen, we're thankful for what's happening, but this is really, I think, exposing the drought that we have been in, up to this point. Do you have any comments on any of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, I think this is also something Corey talked about, but like just even looking at revival history or the book of Acts isn't meant to be some like extreme example for us. That is what normal like Christianity and what people who've been baptized with the Spirit of God, clothed with power from on high, are experiencing.
Yes.
And so Corey was even talking about, like, you see Ephesus and Acts where the revival is like the gospel comes, people are baptized in the Spirit, and they're taking like all the books of like idol worship and witchcraft and stuff and burning them in the square, like thousands of dollars of like the city's economy is bankrupt because they've actually tasted the superior pleasure and everything is flipped upside down.
Right.
And so while like we're grateful for every move of God, big and small, there's this reality that like the fullness of revival is literally the glory and the government of the Lord, flipping things as we know it upside down, exceeding expectations, touching every part of society, like not just the church, but like the darkest places. And so that it just gives this expectation in my heart for we have permission to ask for these things because it's actually the reality of the gospel actually touching a place.
Yeah. And, people, one of the main things that's happening at Asbury right now is people are coming and they're repenting of sin. Or some people are getting saved for the first time, giving their lives to the Lord. And hunger is being sort of awakened within them.
Yes.
And all of that's really beautiful. However, in a church that is alive, that should be very common.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's one of those things where it's like, yeah, this is really good and right. I don't have anything bad to say about this. At the same time, for this to get us so excited exposes the fact that this has been vacant from the church. And that is actually, that's an issue. That should not have, how did we get to this place where people repenting of sin and getting saved is now this extraordinary thing? Whereas this is, we look at the book of Acts, this was like basic, early church 101 was people repenting of their sins and getting saved.
It's the beginning. Yeah.
So
it's worthy of celebration, but it's
100%.
Yeah. It's just that first taste. Yeah.
And I think something that I really love about this, I mean, I've been kind of wrestling with this too, is like revival specifically, something so many of us burn for.
Yes.
But we've never like tasted really any amount of it like dramatically. And so I feel like what's happening at Asbury is really pushing us to be like, what even really is revival? Like if we put it in light of the Bible and like what happens in the New Testament with the Holy Spirit, baptism of fire, like what really is revival, and like what is the effects that we're going to see when that takes place. Because I think I've just been asking that myself of like, okay, going there and being like, honestly, I feel a check in my spirit of really labeling that as a revival. I think it is a move of God and they're pioneering something that is to come. But is that really like, God, like, would you show me the fullness of what you mean when you say revival?
Yeah. I think that's it, is like, we've all been in incredible glory-filled meetings. But
us personally.
Yes. But even if you think about, like, I've been in 100 services where I've encountered the Lord, where I've gotten touched by the Lord, where like corporately we've went somewhere. But even that is not revival. And so there's there's a cry for not even just like, we've had this language of not even just visitation, but habitation, where God doesn't just come for an amount, like a set amount of time, like a weekend or a meeting or a month, but that God actually comes and dwells in our midst, dwells in a people.
Absolutely.
And that there's a lasting, like, affecting change, that things are dramatically shifted for more than just a day, for more than just a month, but that landscapes are actually changing, strongholds are actually coming down in regions. And so, like, yeah, I think we've all been in this cry of like, there's so much more even of the beauty that we've tasted. Like, I know that we've barely scratched the surface, and I think that is the heart cry like for revival, is just the constant awareness that there's more, that the increase of his government would know no end.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really hope that anyone who's listening to us have this conversation doesn't feel like we're trying to cut down what's happening at Asbury. I think, but what I hope you do hear us say is, this is beautiful. There's so much more that the Lord has in store for us as a corporate body. And I think we have a long way to go in the maturing that he's promised. You know, I mean, he's promised our corporate, as us as individuals and us as a corporate body or bride, that we would be mature, right? That we would be, by the time it's time for us to be given over to Jesus in marriage, that he's going to marry a bride that's equally yoked with him. And he meets us where we're at. That's the kindness of the Lord. That's his mercy. He's so kind to meet us wherever we're at, but he loves us way too much to let us stay there in a place of infancy or a place of immaturity. And I hope you don't hear that we think we're better than anyone, because we're a part of the body too. I mean, we're in our own journey, and there's so much stuff that we're young. We're in our 20s. Abby's younger than the youngest one.
We want more for Asbury, and we want more for us. We want more for the body everywhere.
We're not just saying out there, you guys need more.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we're all personally, I think, walked away from the weekend feeling like grateful, but there's got to be more for us personally and for the big picture.
Yeah.
I will say this. I think as someone who's a full-time intercessor, like the two of you guys, you know, we pray so much in the prayer room for moves of God, for the Lord to touch our generation, to touch our city, the nations, college campuses, whatever. And so in that sense, this whole thing that's happening has really strengthened me. Because it's such a tangible answer.
Yes.
You know, I've been doing this type of ministry for like 5.5 years. And most of the time you don't get to see a direct answer to your prayers from time to time. And it's like really encouraging when you do. But we are seeing, stuff sprout up even on different college campuses because of what has started at Asbury. And that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I think we are in the beginning stages of a move, and it has really encouraged me in the place of intercession to keep pressing in.
I think that's the part of it, is not assuming that anyone is doing this, but sometimes when we hear about moves of God, like we're just like, oh, that's awesome, that's so great for them, like we celebrate what's happening, which we should celebrate what's happening in other congregations and other places, but that also again fuels that we're not just celebrating what he has done and like waiting for it to happen somewhere else passively, but waiting for it to come to us and to every other place, but in the place of prayer, like what you're talking about, like seeing moves of God actually fueling us to ask for more, like to go and ask, do that here, do more there, like bring us together into one body. And so it's not enough just to appreciate what's happening, but to let the gratitude of what's happening fuel a deeper cry in us to see the fullness of God everywhere.
Absolutely. And I want to hit on this point too, as a part of the conversation. We've been praying into this. Now we're seeing the Lord begin to move in just a greater measure. We know from the scriptures that this is in his heart to pour out his Spirit. As the days draw closer to his return, there's going to be many people who come to know Jesus. There's going to be a lot of dynamics. I mean, we're looking at this specific dynamic. We could talk about a lot of different things, but one of them that's clear in scripture is there's going to be a move of God and many people will be saved, And I was struck by my time at Asbury, just thinking about how whenever, and like I said, it's here now, it's going to increase. Whenever the people start coming into the kingdom by the droves and by the thousands, there will truly be a significant need for ones who have been in the faith for years or decades or whatever, who and have even prayed into this, to now begin to help these new believers who have been set on fire all of a sudden, but don't know like anything about what this is, what's going on, who is Jesus, or know very little. There's going to be such a need for shepherds and discipleship. And I was just thinking about that. And I hope you don't hear this like I'm looking down, but I'm like, but I also like want to be prepared, and I'm starting to ask the Lord, like, make me someone that would be a shepherd amongst many in your end time revival, and that could help the body of Christ navigate through your word, navigate through the hard things that will come. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if you guys have had like any of that thought, you know, as connected to what we saw in Asbury. It's okay if you didn't.
I'm going to be honest, I haven't super thought about it, but I mean, I think it's always been a need. I'm so thankful personally that I was blessed with like a mentor, someone to shepherd me in high school. Like I took on to the gospel really when I was 13, like really took it seriously. And I don't think if I wouldn't have had people to come around me and help me live that out and be dedicated with all of that, I definitely, like, there were so many times I would have fallen to the wayside. So I even think like a huge intercession point would be that, just for people to raise up and awaken, even people in our generation, like the whole heart of this ministry with like the Lord raising up mothers and fathers within their own generation. I think that's so needed, and I just even pray that like the Lord would make me ready, available, and willing to be that for people that are just receiving salvation.
I think it's important to remember that in any move of God, in any revival, there are going to be so many that have encounters with the Lord or that are around like these signs and wonders,
Yes.
things of the Lord. But without that like discipleship piece, it's more likely that more will still turn away or fall away, or it's like the seed on the different types of soils, like
Right.
what I can't remember, the one where it's there for a little bit and then gets choked out.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think this is so important that mothers and fathers, and that doesn't necessarily mean, in your 50s, so we do need that too, but that those who carry that shepherding heart in every generation to really, like Hebrews 3 have been in lately, and it talks about like reminding each other of the truth that we've heard daily, lest any of us have an evil, unbelieving heart. Like today, if you hear his voice, don't harden his heart.
Yeah.
And so discipleship is that piece that reminds us today, it doesn't, like it does matter, but it doesn't matter what happened yesterday, a year ago, 2 years ago. Today, there's a responsiveness to the Lord. There's an obedience to his word. There's a feeding on his word and on his presence.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I think in the midst of celebrating moves of God, remembering that his people need to be tended to. They need to be fed. They need to be encouraged in the faith, built up, because it's also like, we're going to reach maturity as one body, that there's actually going to be the church in different generations from different places in the same maturity of love. And so we want to labor to make sure that it's not just us getting somewhere, but that we all go together. I think in general, I've been feeling such a burden for discipleship and like really remembering to center around like Acts 2, breaking bread, testimony, the word, preaching of it, all of these things, because that's how we're meant to be living. And the first like 10 years of my faith, I honestly didn't really have people shepherding me, and by the grace of God, he kept me. But I think about, man, where would I be now if for those 10 years I had people encouraging me in the Lord and contending for more? And where would I be if, like, I was raised in the presence of God?
Right.
And so the Lord reaches people at all stages of life and keeps them, but there's more opportunity for vibrancy and maturity and strength where we come in and we tend to every age. And also, sorry, my mind's going a million places, but this touches younger than Gen Z. Like,
absolutely.
4-year-olds getting encountered, like seeing the move of the Lord. And I think it's also important to not, when young ones respond to the Lord or say things about the Lord, to not just treat it as cute or like common or dumb it down, but to really spur on the younger generation. Like, yeah, you hear his voice, like he speaks to you, like he'll give you dreams. Like the sooner we can help guide the generations into the truth of the Lord, the more equipped they'll be and the further they can run than even we ran in our generation. And I think I have such a zeal to see generations just take it further and further until the return of the Lord.
Absolutely. On Monday nights, the prayer teams at Monday nights here at our prayer room, we've been praying for Generation Alpha, which is younger than Gen Z. It's like, 10 years and younger, 12 years and younger, whatever. And I'm just one of the things I've been praying into on Monday nights is, Lord, would you call forth young children like you called forth Samuel? Samuel was in the presence of the Lord as a kid and heard the voice of the Lord. The Lord literally should speak his name. And I'm like, would you begin to speak names and call forth identities over the young ones? And so I love that point. He's coming after every age group, and you're not too old or too young to be brought into this storyline and to be brought into this relationship with Jesus. I wanted to comment on what you said just about how the people of God need to be tended to. I'm two passages off the top of my head that came to my mind was when Jesus tells Peter to tend my sheep.
Yeah.
This is when he's commissioning Peter, and he's right before, at the end of Jesus' time on earth, he's like, Peter, this is my commission to you. I want you to take care of the believers, essentially. But I was also thinking about Matthew chapter 9, whenever Jesus looks and sees the huge crowd of people. And I've even heard that different pastors or commentators think that Jesus was seen in the spirit too, that he was seeing what was in front of him, but he was seeing the crowds or generations to come. And it says that the people were harassed like sheep without a shepherd. And he turns to his disciples and he's like, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray to the Lord of the harvest that he would, what should we pray? That he would send forth laborers. And so I've started to think about that. And just because it's you're not every day that you show up to a place and you see thousands of believers who are desperate for a touch from the Lord. And so I've just begun to think of that, Lord, oh my gosh, like these people are in all different stages, desperate for a touch. And I wanted to share this one testimony too. When we first showed up, as we were driving up, I just felt to start praying actually for people that we would encounter in the line. And I felt like the Lord actually gave me a couple of descriptions for someone who was going to be in the line. And this hasn't happened to me very much, but he showed me there would be someone with red color hair and like a yellow sweatshirt or yellow hoodie. And he gave me a prophetic word for her. So when we first showed up, I felt like I was on an assignment to try and find this girl. And I'm like, I guess I should look for her. And I turn around and she's almost directly behind us.
Yeah, it was like immediately.
It was immediately. In the first 2 minutes, I turned behind me. Oh my gosh, there's this, I don't know, 45-year-old woman or whatever. She's wearing a yellow sweatshirt. She's got red hair. And I'm like, I think that's got to be the girl.
Yeah.
And long story short, I ended up praying for this woman, prophesying over this woman, not only her, but her husband, her 2 or 3 children, 2 or 3 of her children's friends that were all there. This family is just a small town American family, lives in some random town in Kentucky of 100 people, and shared with me that they, in the last year, had a house fire where their house burnt to the ground, and one of their daughters died in that house fire. And I was like so moved just by everything, like what we're talking about. Like I felt like I was sent to, I feel like I was there at the Asbury Revival for that family, to love on them and to bless them and show them the love of Jesus, and that Jesus saw them before I even physically saw them with my own eyes. I saw her in the spirit. Why? Because they were on the Lord's heart. And yeah, I got some things for myself from my experience there, but I was like, this is one of the primary reasons I'm here, is to love and bless on that particular family. And I think that is going to happen all over the place. I mean, I wasn't the only one. There were several people of our friends who were even praying for that specific family. And we were with them for hours before we moved around in the line. And so the need for the body, for the sheep to be tended to, for there to be shepherds who are ready to go. Their relationship with Jesus is strong. They love him. They've spent the time praying for the harvest, and that laborers would be sent forth, and he'll actually send you. And I mean, that's what Jesus did with the disciples. He told them to pray for this, but who did he send? He sent them. And so I don't know. I wanted to share that testimony, and this, and just to bring attention, this is going to be a major piece to the move of God. It's not just our job is not over whenever people give their lives to Jesus. Oh my gosh. Now there's a lifetime of discipleship, walking it out, shepherding, and helping them navigate through a world that is going to hate them, persecute them, betray them, an enemy that wants to kill them and see them just snuffed out and destroyed. All of that is very real and it has to be walked out.
Yeah. I can't remember where it is, but I believe it's Paul who says, I'm in the anguish of childbirth until Christ is formed in you.
Wow.
So it's what you're talking about. It's not just like, the goal isn't just the initial salvation, but he's in anguish over Christ being formed in them, which is sanctification, which is growing up into Christ, which is growing into maturity.
Yes.
And it's getting in touch with the jealousy of the bridegroom for the bride, and partnering and laboring with the bridegroom to see the bride ready and prepared and loved and confident and actually looking like Christ, not just saved, not just having an encounter with God, but Christ formed in them, laboring to feed them with knowledge and understanding, laboring to even correct where there needs to be correction, to love where there needs to be love, to encourage and exhort, and to build up and even impart spiritual gifts. But the anguish of childbirth, like laboring that he would see the church grow into maturity, Christ formed in the church, which is so different than the approach we've often seen, at least in our time, in our context. Like, it's not just about the numbers getting saved or the numbers attending a service, but like laboring to see Christ get his full reward in a people who has actually grown up into him, into his image and likeness, into agreement with his words and his judgments, abiding in him, letting his words abide in them, like moving in the power of the Spirit. This is what the Lord intended for the church, that it wouldn't just be a few super greats of the faith, but that there's one body, actually all with one Spirit, one mind, one Lord, like one faith. And this is what we're laboring for, to gather others into not just the beginnings, but the fullness of what Christ desires for us.
Yeah, that's so good. I just want to encourage anybody that's watching that might be like 15, 16, 17 years old, where you're like, all right, taking that burden doesn't really apply to me. God actually wrecked me when I was 17. I was supposed to go to Africa and all these things during my summer break. And the Lord literally came to me and was like, call it all off. Like, I want you to pour into your youth group this summer.
Wow.
And I was like, I was honestly bummed. I was like, are you for
like,
real?
I am the youth group.
Wow.
But just he highlighted a few middle school girls to me, and I just took them under my wing. Like, I don't even know how I did it. It was literally the grace of God. This is not about me, but I just want to empower any one of you guys that is like maybe thinking it doesn't apply to you, but it does. Like, God has given you the grace, the power. He's set you free by the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so I just want to encourage you can do it. I actually still mentor a few of them to this day. And so there is power in just giving God your yes. So if that burden's on you, then just receive it.
So good.
My goodness. I'm glad that you said that. I think, man, that's so powerful, because going to Africa is so much more, I mean, it sounds so much more awesome. And, I get to go to the nations and whatever, do the foreign missions. And the Lord's like, what about what's your own neighborhood? What about your friend group? And I think the Lord's delivering our generation from just that mindset of like, well, we got to go out here. And he's like, no, what about what's right in front of you, your vicinity?
Yeah. And I think also too, like, discipleship not even being of, I'm like, well, it should never be this, but like, I'm lording over, or even it can be, I'm farther ahead and I want to like bring people up to like where I am and beyond. But also, like, I think just the general desiring to sharpen one another and desiring, again, just for us all to attain the fullness of faith. So it's not even about, I have to have all the teachings, I have to have all the experience, whatever, but that it's just that desire to like feed each other with the word of God,
Yes.
like with the truth that sets free. And so I think that also takes off some of the expectations too of it can look like someone who's not as far as you, but it can be your peers.
Absolutely.
Like we can
100%.
disciple one another in the things of the Lord.
That's right. I feel like there's times where my friends are discipling me, and there's times where I'm discipling them.
Yeah.
And that is all legitimate.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Guys, this is I feel like such a great conversation. I'm really glad that we had it. We were able to debrief some of our thoughts. I mean, there's probably more that we could talk about. But I think hopefully anyone who is listening, you guys have just like a better understanding maybe of what was going on, but some of our experience, some of our thoughts. I hope that you were provoked by our conversation just in your love for the Lord. I mean, that's our heart behind this podcast. We want to see people go deeper in the Lord. And we say our mission statement all the time, but it's Jesus people having these conversations to provoke a greater love for the Lord, and hope that that's what happened today. Is there anything like, I don't know, that you guys want to say as
I
we're
just want to
wrapping
say
up?
it one more time. We've said it a few times, but like, this is not in a critical spirit. We don't want it to inspire a critical spirit over anything that's happening anywhere. We celebrate what the Lord is doing. We're thankful for what's happening at Asbury. These are just some reflections. Like, I just really want to make it clear, like,
Very
we're
pastoral,
not
Charissa.
here critiquing or devaluing it. It's
Absolutely.
beautiful. We love it. And no matter what we experience, no matter what level we experience, there's more.
Absolutely.
And we want to spur one another on to the more.
And hopefully we have that heart posture all the way to the end.
Yes.
Until Jesus is literally returned and is literally ruling and reigning in Jerusalem.
Come on.
Abby, thank you for coming on the show with us today. Making your debut.
Yes.
Guys, if you are just like moved by Heavenly Bread, the ministry and what we do, I'd love to invite you to sow a one-time gift into the ministry, or if you want to become a monthly financial partner. This helps us advance the message of Jesus. It helps us even add more people to the team down the road, get the equipment that we need, all that good stuff. And so we'll have a link for that in the description, especially if you're watching on YouTube. So thank you for your generosity just ahead of time. We love you guys.
Love you guys.
We will be back down the road with some more episodes.
Yes.
Stick with us. And we'll see you later.